Well, it's 35 years since Expo 88 came to life on the area of Brisbane that we now know as South Bank. It was a seminal time for Brisbane. In fact, it was a seminal time for Queensland. And some might say it was a seminal time for the whole country. It's something that those who are a part of it still relish the memories and still love to talk about. And on this anniversary, there are a lot of things planned for this 35th anniversary to honour that memory. And not all of them are happening in Brisbane itself. Now, I suppose the town of Yarraman might be the last place you would expect to find any sort of Expo 88 tribute, but at the Yarraman Heritage Centre at the moment, you will find a massive mural dedicated to the legacy of World Expo 88. It was, if you were around at the time, you'll remember it was the handiwork of the Queensland Girl Guides. And to tell us a little bit more about it, Peter Rasey is a man who was also instrumental in making it happen. He is the host of the Legacy of Expo 88 podcast and an Expo 88 devotee and aficionado. Peter, good morning.
Good morning, David, and thank you for that kind introduction.
Aficionado, would that be the best way to describe your passion for all things Expo 88?
Well, my passions extend to the key historical points of Brisbane, and Expo 88 is certainly one of them. And I should compliment you on the really great interview that you did with Rick Birch the other day.
Well, thank you very much. He was a really a delight to talk to, and it was such a fascinating insight into the behind the scenes of pulling together the entertainment that we saw at Expo 88. But tell us about this Expo mural, though. How did it come about?
Through a lot of hard work, actually. However, it is an excellent interplay, I think, into locally the Roy Emerson Museum, which has just recently had a small stretch of road named Roy Emerson Way that leads into the Roy Emerson Museum. But more importantly, I think it's a great interplay with the Big Cow up at Highfields, because all of these local historical villages, I think they need a really strong marketing point of interest. And that's what sort of drove me to continue to look for just the right spot to display the Girl Guides mural, or the Friendship mural in actual fact is its proper name, from Expo 88. It was about 30 metres long. Unfortunately, it went through the 2011 floods, and it was made of compressed bamboo, and about 18 metres of it was lost, which was a really great shame, because there are 30,000 names on the residual and leftover piece, which is 12 metres long, 2 metres high, and they're all swimming pool tiles. And a graphic designer who isn't that successful, unfortunately, he designed the Commonwealth Bank logo, the Qantas kangaroo, and his name's Ken Cato. And that was a joke, David, you're supposed to laugh. So he's really successful. And he designed this mural, which was to reflect upon the reef and outback Queensland. And then the Girl Guide sent about selling for $2.50 each a swimming pool size tile that had been laser cut with a special message, and they were sort of made overnight and glued up the following day. And there are marriage proposals, there are tributes to people who passed away on the way to Expo. There's tributes to people who worked on the Expo site and in some cases passed away on the Expo site. I mean, it's just a brilliant snapshot of history, and it's now can be seen at the Yarraman Heritage Village. You should phone though, because they are run by volunteers, and if you just want to secure a safe visit to know that, yeah, okay, yes, it's going to be open, it's better to phone. But it's just a brilliant snapshot of history. And I don't know if you recall Jason Ford.
Yes, yeah, Jason in Kingaroy.
Yep, and you did the great MC job 5 years ago of unveiling his absolutely and totally amazing collection of Expo 88 memorabilia. Well, he's made a personal donation of his collection, part of his collection, to really lift up and give a special flavour to the mural. So it's not just the mural; it's also a really good cross section of memorabilia which is on display, and it's just really quite amazing.
This mural sounds fantastic, but where has it been, though, since the end of Expo 88 and now that it's gone on display in Yarraman?
Really interesting tale to tell about that. So the World Expo 88 Authority had done a deal with the Girl Guides that, yes, you sell all these murals and this mural will become a part of the redevelopment area. So that was the original goal. However, with changing fortunes, the World Expo 88 Authority wound up. South Bank ended up, the Girl Guides ended up with the mural, but no home for it. And they tried several times to get the Brisbane City Council interested in it, and it just didn't quite get the pitch right to be able to enthuse the Brisbane City Council to display it. Most of it then went down to their Redland Bay display area, and it ended up, unfortunately, becoming the wall within a garage shed where all the lawnmowers and whatever else was stored. And that's caused part of the problem because there's been hornet's nest and other things. And there's a really lovely lady by the name of Heather who has just taken on the restoration of this mural to heart. And so she's done it. She's cleaned it now about 3 times, and she's now at the stage where she's cleaning it tile by tile with an earbud and acetone to get off the sticky mess and ants nest and all the rest of it that's on it. And it's just going to be wonderfully restored when they're really finished with it. But it'll be a 12-month or an 18-month job of painstaking effort to bring it back to a really pristine state.
But that is a classic example, and it's great that we have people who are dedicated and willing to just put in the sheer blood, sweat and tears and restore things like this to their original condition, because they really are part of a wonderful chapter of Queensland's history. But so too can be said about some of those the white figures that used to be dotted around Expo 88. What do you officially call them, Peter?
They're called the Human Factor series. They were made by John Underwood and the Art Buster Group, and it's just a really fascinating process. And if anyone's really interested, in the John Oxley Library, there are a couple of photographic albums of the process. And Rick Birch made a very generous donation to the John Oxley Library. Later in the day, after he interviewed you, I think actually your interview probably really inspired him to make that donation with even more gusto than what he was intending to. And they just show, really in great detail the process, the plaster cast and the reverse mold and the final production. And they were a really standout feature of World Expo 88.
But there are a lot of those figures that need restoring, that have been sort of socked away in bolt holes and sheds, and they've been lost to time in Brisbane. So how many of them are actually lost to time, and how many of them are actually still on display in some public forum or another around Queensland, and how many of them are missing? Have you kept track?
Well, yes, I have. And there are 2 aspects to that. The Brisbane City Council, under the leadership of Graham Quirk, recast quite a few of them, but there are only about 8 or 9 left over from 88. which is a really great shame. But people lose track. They lose interest and they regather interest. And yes, so there is a very interesting story. The actual Girl Guides mural ended up in the Toowoomba Regional Council area, and they've been really great and very supportive. And full credit actually to Spud Jones, the councillor for Division 2 in South Burnett, because he really tried to be of assistance, but because of the delicate nature, it didn't go anywhere. However, there was another art buster that was donated to the Kingaroy Museum, and the South Burnett Regional Council, yes, looked at it. It was $35,000 cost, and they declined to proceed with it. But what was really embarrassing, or really insulting, maybe there's another word, I don't know, is that they didn't come back to the committee that was sort of trying to restore these art buster pieces and let us know. And it was only after 18 months that we discovered that, well, they weren't actually going to do anything with this, beautiful art buster piece. And I spoke to the mayor, and he said, "Oh no, we'll do something about it." And I ended up having another meeting with another piece of art buster memorabilia, and it was on a no obligation basis, and we had a talk about it with the council officer, and it was decided that no, we won't proceed with it. And lo and behold, I then discovered that it's gone to a formal council meeting, it's been rejected, and I was just so devastated by the way that it was portrayed. And yeah, no, the South Burnett Council and the Mayor, they need to have a careful look at themselves if they want to get tourism to work, I'll tell you that.
Well, I guess that $35,000 is a big cost, but it does sound like communication might have been a little bit lacking. But I'm curious, and I've only got about a minute to go, but what happens to that piece while it's not restored? Does it just deteriorate further, or is it stored somewhere just waiting till someone comes forward who's willing to and has the money to restore it? What happens to it now?
One of them is actually in the warehouse that I'm talking to you from. I'm looking at it right now. The other one is in the Caboolture Historical Village, and they restored, and it's another beautiful story, the Ken Doan World Expo 88 signs. And all of these restorations, I mean, they really give Southeast Queensland a very strong tourism pitch. And I don't think people realise just how successful the Brisbane Valley Rail Trail is going to be, nor do they understand that things like the World Expo 88 mural, the Roymerson Museum, the Condensatory, the mural down at Fernvale, the new entrance statement, they all go to make an absolutely fantastic tourism narrative. And World Expo 88 Legacy, it's just a small part of something that's really great and will be fantastic come 2032.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. I appreciate your time, and I would certainly encourage people to go down and have a look at this wonderful mural down at the Yarraman Heritage Museum. Peter Rasey there.